All right, got another one for you here. This time we're looking at this variant of a Starfall Starkiller. So I don't remember if this particular customer picked this up on the secondhand market or had this commission, but clearly a lot of appointments that you'll recognize from Nick's recent foray into machining most of these parts himself. So you can tell, like, this shroud he cut from his stock. He fully manufactured his own control box, did his own mill work on the brass. However, you know, like, these cover techs are just modified, and that's obviously a bought thing, but milled out bunny ears, stuff like that. So found parts within the crystal chamber, etc., etc. So this particular customer, when reaching out, was very adamant about trying to incorporate an OLED screen. He had seen some of my work with the Saber Museum, specifically a certain chassis that was fully removable that had an OLED, and I kind of said, hey, that had more opportunity for space. So knowing what I know about Starfall, we can get one, but we may have to sacrifice some things. Thankfully, when this showed up on my doorstep, there was a little bit more extra room that Nick provided, so I did actually get a kill switch, which you can see right there. So let's talk some more down at the table about what went on with the install, go over some specifics with this particular hilt, and then we'll hop back out, show off a couple blade styles, show off a little bit of function, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so here we have the Starfall Starkiller variant. I'm not sure what he was calling this particular variant, but you can see with the blacked out scheme, a little bit of a dark side theme on this one. This is installed very much like a lot of the Starkillers. So in the back of the crystal chamber, there are some Neopixel strips that are independently programmed. So right now we just have the PCB that's under the crystal lighting up in this particular preset setting. Also, this customer had seen some of my work with the higher end clients and was happy to get me to subblade the emitter PCB to do animations in the off state when a blade is not in, and then requested the greeblie chassis like I mentioned. So set screws right here. The Allen key works for both your blade retention here. Here, let's actually take the blade plug out, might as well. So there's the provided blade plug, and this is a Shtok NPXL V4, again subbladed into inner and outer rings. You can see on this particular off state, the animations are kind of pulsating at a different pace. Let's talk about this real quick. So really cool, you know, custom made control box with the clicky dome tactile switches. So top is our power, bottom is our aux. And then obviously the grip retention. And generally speaking, that's going to align with the left side of the chamber screws. But also what we like to do is make sure that the brass strips on the grip line, the center one lines up with the crystal chamber when we do that. And you'll see a little marred surface from where that set screw has been engaged. So, like I said, this one has an OLED with the greeblies. This, you know, has Edison filaments, and then 2 baffled greeblies with 15 2020 Neopixel strips. And again, these things do different things in the on and off state. This one also features a lower crystal. So again, we've got just a single Neopixel PCB underneath that. And what I like to do on these is, because we do have 2 different crystals, I like to try to stay within the preset or the sound fonts theme, but kind of not use the exact same colors everywhere. So for instance, this has our red, which will the crystal will almost always match the main blade color, whereas this is like a orange to a dark orange color. And then obviously in the off state, the strip's doing one thing. These are blue Edison filaments, and you can see I've got them pulsing in the off state. So if we hit power, and then we had it on for 5 minutes, so what you saw just happen was right before I hit power, it was going to go to sleep. So just a heads up to the customer, this does have a 5-minute sleep time. It doesn't fully save battery life. You'll want the kill switch for that, but it will save you from, you know, fully depleting your battery over time, because we've got all these accent pixels. So I started it up muted so I could talk. Here you can see the OLED. This particular customer also saw that I had done like a little strip of film over the OLED on one of the Saber Museum sabers, and so they asked if they could get green. This is a white OLED, so the green is a subtle hue. If we turn the power off, you can sort of tell that there's that green tint from the film that I put over the screen there. So let's turn it on, which will show off my boot screen. And then it'll go into the idle state. Now, for this particular set of animations, I've put these in the common folder, but I've also provided on the SD card a bunch of other OLED animations. So there's a folder called Spare OLED Animations. What you can do is, if you want something specific, I recommend taking the one out of common folder and dropping whichever one you want onto the font folders. So this sports the Starfall font package. There are also a myriad of other sound fonts on the SD card as I get it from where I buy the Proffies. So, but I haven't programmed those as presets. So you can access those in the future if you want by jumping into edit mode. I don't cover that here in the video, but I'll have a printout that explains that. The easiest way to do that on the Saber, if you don't want to learn how to program Proffie, is to just go into edit mode, duplicate one of the presets that you like, and then so it'll say duplicate preset, and then you can go in and change the main blade color, and some of the other accent colors, and then you can also change the font folder that it looks at. If you don't mind if you want to use a color, because I do kind of cover the base of Canon, you know, Saber colors and stuff like that with these 11 presets, then you can just duplicate it and just change the font and you'll be good to go. But the only thing you can do on the fly if you're not using edit mode, and I'll demonstrate this with the blade in, is you can change just the main blade color. It makes it easy if you want to just switch it up and not worry about the rest of the stuff in the crystals and all that stuff. It's called on-the-fly color change. I'll demonstrate that with the blade in. But let's just check out a couple other things. I did go ahead and, like I said, if I knew who the Starfall sound font was kind of based off of character-wise, there's only two that I provided because I don't remember where I got all the animations from, and I don't think there's one for every single character where I downloaded it from. There probably is if you decide in the future you want to download those and put those on the card, but I've only provided what I had at my disposal. But what I also did was provide the Proffie OS voice pack from Brian Connor. So for instance, if I knew it was Vader, on Starfall you've got the Vader, and you'll see a Vader boot screen, and then if you go into like battery level 74%, you'll get whoever the character is. So you'll get Vader on Starfall. This one is Celestial, which I believe is Obi-Wan. Otherwise, the OLED just has the text that's in the config. So I've made sure to add the text for each name of the font so you don't get lost. Obviously, there's a font sound. So for instance, like this purple, this is going to be Mace. So if we do like the volume.
Enter volume menu. Maximum volume. Exiting volume menu.
So I was holding power and tapping aux to get into it. You can rotate clockwise to go up, counterclockwise to go down. This is a 28mm KR bass speaker. Plenty of volume, sounds real good when everything's cinched up, especially because I sealed off the tabs with some sealant. But yeah, so that is that. Let's show off a couple other presets. What I mentioned before, the strip behind the crystal. Almost all of the presets that I've programmed, I just only had that come on in the off state because I figured it'd be too much. But because each one of these things are independently programmable, so if you want to do something, you can get into edit mode and change what happens in the on and off state. So I'm going to again start it up. So you can see now we've got like an orange, yellowish animation happening behind the crystal. Still the purple crystal. This animation now changes. One thing that's cool about this particular OLED set of screens is when the power is on, that main set of bubbles depletes, and then if you clash, the lower one reduces. And then when you turn it off, you can see that main one goes back up to full and the other ones kind of go up as well, but they all just kind of animate. So again, this is in the common folder. If you want something specific, take it out of the common, put whatever you want into the font folder. I didn't do that because that's up to you. So yeah, kill switch right here. So all things go off. My custom wrapped battery, let's pop that out real quick. I just like to smack this part against my wrist. Spring sides are negative, but clearly indicated positive. And then obviously we've got the Starfall logo in there. And then just to, make sure the nipple goes to the nipple, by the way. And just some really cool paint jobs. So I like to do like the heat stain pigment on the baffled greeblie. Obviously got to get the universal greeblie in there. And just some piping and stuff like that. And just little splashes of color here and there to kind of set it off. So let's put a blade in it. So again, what we want to do is align this set screw with the left side of the chamber. And again, you can see those mar marks from previous set screw. And then I just double check center alignment with this strip down the center of the saber. And then take our Allen key that works for our blade retention and tighten down. All right, so let's put a blade in it. This takes a 1 inch. Forgot about gestures. Forgive me. I forgot I put swing on for this particular customer. All right, takes a 1 inch diameter Neopixel blade. I, however, am going to use my 7/8 with a little 1 inch adapter and hopefully not get any kind of twisting or binding. Again, we got different crystal animation.
Hero's Journey.
Here, let's go back to the top. If you point the hilt down, go backwards when you're hitting aux.
Battery level.
Okay, so the very last preset, I'll just start off, is the battery level. And this is programmed for a 36-inch blade length, so that's what this is. If you have a shorter blade, you can jump into edit settings in the edit mode, edit blade length, and then you can rotate. And then the moment you see a white tip, that's your last pixel, and you can hit power to accept that. Generally speaking, though, if you're going from like 36 to 32, the only thing that might happen is some of the animations get cropped, but you should still see all of them. So you may not have to do anything, but the feature is there for you to use if you want it. So anyway, back to the battery level. So as this depletes, this bubble will come down. It'll change from like green to blue, yellow, orange. As it gets towards the emitter, it'll get more red. At some level of percentage, you'll start to hear artifacts in the sound quality, like speaker crackle or slow to process sounds, kind of glitchy. Not to worry, nothing's wrong, just means charge your battery. If you're ever unsure, in any preset whatsoever, you can hold aux and tap power when the blade is not ignited. And again, if there's a voice pack, you'll hear percentage spoken to you by one of the characters. I use Darth Bane on this particular one, since it's kind of Sithy with all the dark theme, to be the default. So since we're in the battery level, it's going to be the default.
Battery level 69%.
Nice. All right, so here we're in Starfall. So this is the top of the preset list. Again, all 11 presets. The last one is a battery level, so 10 sound fonts or so. I might be misremembering the number. But plenty of sound fonts to use that cover the gamut with regard to OT, like original Trilly blade colors, and even some of the sequels. So we do have gesture controls: twist on, twist off, thrust on if you're sideways, and then you saw me accidentally hit swing on when I was trying to put the blade in. And that was just for this particular customer. I think he mentioned wanting swing on. So if we do that. When you use a gesture control, you will also bypass any preons if they have them. This particular sound font does not, but it will also get us into battle mode, which means you don't have to hold a button to engage lockups. So if we do a light clash, we do have the battle mode detection. There we go. So just a light tap and you'll see a glancing blow. There we go. But if we do a harder clash, we'll engage a lockup. You can move it around a little bit, but when you pull out of that position, you'll disengage. And that goes for melt as well when you're sideways. Or when you're down, you'll get a drag. Okay. So again, that's battle mode with a gesture control. Again, twist on, twist off, thrust on, which is like a sideways push or a pull, and then swing on. I normally don't include swing on because, as you saw at the top, it's really easy to ignite the blade accidentally. So let's move on. So what we can do when the blade is on, if we hold power for 2 seconds, we'll engage a force effect. And you can see what I've done is animate the blade for as long as a sound effect happens. If you use like a default setting on the FET263 library, he like has it at 30 seconds, which is too long for my taste. So I just have it set to the sound effect. Some of the Starfall sound fonts also have quotes. So to get those, do the same thing, hold power for 2 seconds, but when the blade is pointing down.
These two forces are welded together. It is called welding infinium.
So if you add fonts in the future, you can, and you have quotes in the folder, again, you can just get to it by pointing the hilt down and flip-flopping between force player and quote player. So, you'll notice when it goes to quote player, the blade does not animate as well. So, all right, moving on. The other thing that holding power for 2 seconds controls is the track player or designated track. When the blade is off and you're in any position other than completely vertical, you'll engage track player. You'll hear a chime, and then as you rotate the saber, you're going through the track list. And I put all of the soundtracks in the common folder, which is again where you have like the animations and the default voice pack. So that way, from any preset whatsoever, you can get all of the available tracks. Sometimes font makers will supply tracks, and if you put them into the font folder, you'll have to make sure on the config you assign it to look to that folder. I have it look to the common folder because I include a long list of tracks, so you can have a lot of fun with it. So let's demonstrate that. Oh, and then a designated track is pointed straight up, and I have assigned a designated track for each preset. But let's start with track player. Hold power for 2 seconds. Chime. Now, depending on if you hit aux or power and you do a gesture or not, you can continue playing that soundtrack. Generally speaking, the easiest is to just hit power and it'll keep playing that particular track. And now if you're moving the saber around, it doesn't keep cycling through all the tracks. Hold power for 2 seconds to turn the track off. And if we want to do the designated track, point the saber straight up, hold power for 2 seconds. There we go. Now, you can turn the track off if the blade is ignited, but you have to be pointed up. Mississippi, to Mississippi. There we go. Sorry, my timing is a little off today. You can also start the designated track when the blade is ignited, but only the designated track. And again, it has to be completely vertical.
Hero's Journey.
All right. I was mentioning before, color change on the fly. When the blade's ignited, hold aux, tap power. There's a little chime. And again, I've got the Proffie OS voice pack guiding you through all of the set colors.
Red, orange, red.
So for instance, this is Luke.
Dark orange.
If you want to keep that
Orange.
color, hit power. I program these specifically, so I'm going to hit aux to revert. You will also note
Yellow.
you're seeing green in the chamber, but it will not change the chamber. This only applies to the main blade. So I'm going to hit aux.
Revert.
So just a heads up, if you do want to change any of the other accent colors, because I use auxiliary colors for all those, or alt colors, you have to get into edit mode. So it's easier to do like color change on the fly if you just want to change it when the blade's on. But again, it only affects the on state color. Any other animations, you have to get into edit mode. And that is true of the accent pixels as well. You have to either program those specifically by jumping into edit mode or editing the config, which is a lot more advanced. So the only preset that does not apply to is core and horn. It does color change direct.
Reckon.
I'm gonna also take the grip off for this because I do want to show one cool thing. So with the core and horn lore, there's like a dual phase crystal thing in the novel. So what happens is it goes from a white main blade color to a light purple. So you'll see in the crystal, it's light purple, and then this one's white. And this will, like I said, will almost always match the blade color. What should happen is these will flip flop. So turn power on. We got our white blade, light purplish. Now, if we hold aux and tap power for color change on the fly, this one goes to purple and this one goes to white, as does the main blade go to this purple. So hopefully you can see that happening on screen. So again, that is just the core and horn preset, does not apply to anything else. And again, if you want to get more specific with regard to accent color or any other color state, whether that's a blast color or not, you have to get into edit mode. I'll have a printout that covers all that. It's kind of cumbersome to do on the Saber because the edit mode can get deep, especially because this has 8 blade styles: main blade, inner outer ring, crystal chamber, crystal strip behind the chamber, lower crystal, chassis strips, and then Edison filament. So 8 blade styles to keep track of. So it'll be numbered that specifically. It'll be blade 1. But the nice thing is if you are using edit mode, the blade that is currently being changed will blink, and then when you start to change the color, you'll know which one's going through that. So hopefully that covers it. The other thing to note is if you use gesture controls, you'll bypass preons. I think I mentioned this before, but Ruin has a preon, and then these last newest sound fonts from Starfall have preons. The only way to get them is to hit power. So let's demonstrate that real quick. These are also very responsive to the sound itself. So I noticed on some of these newer fonts, like if the sound's not loud enough, you'll just see like a faulty ignition just one time. This one happened to have like a little bit more.
Flawless ascension.
See, like that one was very quick. Otherwise, if you do a gesture control, it just ignites the saber, right? If you do want to hold a lightning block, hold power and tap aux. I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Hold power, tap aux. Continue for as long as you hold power. That is not one you can do a lockup with without doing a button command. So, aux for blaster blocks, etc. Again, anything I don't cover will be on a printout. When we're ready, we can just get to the kill switch right here. I put it at the top so you don't have to pull the grip all the way off. And then we can lock this up. So that is the Saber. To the customer, thanks for thinking of me for your install. I know that this particular customer had 2, and so the other one went to Russell at Wade Sabers. To the rest of you out there watching this, go watch that. That one's really cool. Like I said, this particular customer was very adamant about getting an OLED in there, and because Russ is also a sabersmith, he was able to mill out sections of the hilt and the grip to show the OLED from the outside. That was not something I felt comfortable engaging in because I just don't have the machinery to do it. And the fact that Nick had, a crystal already, a lower crystal chamber already in there, which means cutting 2 sets of aluminum tubes and then, trying to figure out all the routing and yada, yada, yada. It just wasn't something I'd feel comfortable doing. But thankfully, like I said, when this got here, we had a little extra room, so we didn't have to sacrifice the kill switch. Still got all the cool greeblies, all the cool flashy blinky stuff, and that OLED with that little green cover, and that's it. So, like I said, to the customer, thanks for thinking of me. for your install. To everyone else, thanks for watching this video. I know I'm a tad verbose when it comes to this stuff, so I appreciate you sticking around, and may the force be with you.